Hey, howdy, and a big welcome back to Clemhawks, folks. I'm Yak, as we've got Gilles TV here alongside to get us going tonight with some Toronto Blue Jays talk. We are, just 5, 10, 15, I don't even know how many days away from pitchers and catchers reporting because honestly, it's all been a blur this off season. Somehow, some way, this channel's managed to get MLB news out every single day, it feels like, in the past little while about the off season, despite the offseason wrapping up rather quick. That was the crazy part. As soon as Aaron Judge was done and Pablo Lopez got traded, that was it.
Yeah, pretty much. This offseason's been a whirlwind of trades going through, a lot of teams trying to go with a different approach. And we've seen that with the Blue Jays. They went defensively and younger at left field.
Well, friends, that's where we sit, right? Is we only have a couple of pieces left for every single team in the MLB, and the Blue Jays obviously one of the major coverages because of Gillies TV and I both being north of the border up here in Canada. But before we get too far into things tonight, I'd like to ask you if you'd be so kind to hit that subscribe button here on the channel. If you're new, visiting for a second time, whatever, we'd love to have you aboard. Closing in on hitting that 40-50 mark now, closing towards it after hitting 4,000 last week. And again, thank you to everybody that's made that happen for us. But Gillies TV, be Gilly. I always have to sneak that in here on here. Just simply, where do the Blue Jays sit in terms of the bullpen, and what's your problem you've identified for today's video?
Well, in relation to their bullpen, I think the acquisition of Swanson, yes, we did lose Hernandez, helps that bullpen substantially. And with some other guys coming through the system, can really fill that out. But the problem I see now is like the video I did about a month ago was talking about who will be the Blue Jays' fifth starting pitcher. Well, if that is Kikuchi, the Blue Jays need to go out and get one more left-handed bullpen arm because Tim Mesa can't do it. Yes, Ryu will be back in June, July, that area, but that's still half the season gone at that point. You can't rely solely on Tim Mesa being your only left-handed pitcher.
So that's where we obviously, as with everything else we've done this off season so far, you turn to the trade market, you turn to the free agency market, and I think right now the most value add for the Blue Jays is in what's left on the free agency market, guys that are still available to be signed at this point, just a week out from pitchers and catchers reporting. So now's the time that I think we're kind of pigeonholing to do this video because there should be a move made soon if the Blue Jays do indeed intend to have these guys at spring training. So names, ideas, who
So
we throwing out?
we're going to go off your point here first is about how it's kind of down to slim pickings. It really is. But like the Chicago Cubs, who just got Fulmer today, they are one of those types of teams that will go after the skim pickings, get a bargain deal. I believe the Blue Jays, for these two lefties, and sorry, Blue Jays fans, it is not Zach Britton. It is going to be Andrew Chafin, who they have been linked to all offseason, and Will Smith. I believe both those guys could come in, be a 1-2 punch with Tim Mesa. If the Jays can get one of these two guys, Tim Mesa's workload goes down. He's rested for most of the season with the other one, and it's just a 1-2 punch on an everyday basis. Because there might be games where it's 2-1 for three straight games, and Tim Mesa can't go for three straight games against all the lefties.
So with matchups being so important and obviously right rest being important as well, if the Blue Jays want to have some noise in the playoffs, who are the two is better suited for that role, platooning with Tim Mesa game in game out, and what do you have to kind of support that argument?
I would go with Andrew Chafin. He's coming from a Detroit Tigers team where they are a sub 500 team the whole time he's been there. With Will Smith, yeah, you get the experience of the World Series, but how much was that really Will Smith playing to his strengths, or was that just the team in general that he was on? So if I were to pick one, it would have to be Andrew Chafin. He is younger, and he's a solid 283 guy last year in the ERA department and a 223 over the course of 476 games. That's pretty good. Yes, he has a losing record at 14-20, but then again, you are on a Detroit Tigers team who is 500, and I believe he was on, let me just check this here, Arizona before that. So two sub 500 teams in his career. It's going to look bad on your record when it comes to wins losses, but it's the other stats. It's the ground ball rate, it's the ERA, how many times he could get a swinging strike. And I think Andrew Chafin for the longer run too could be that 1-2 punch with Tim Mesa.
So you bring up a good point. The longer run. That's the question here. Is if the Blue Jays do go bargain hunting, are they in your mind going to be able to bargain hunt for just this year? Bargain hunt to parlay it into a second year at the end of the year? Or bargain hunt in the fact of, hey, you know what, you don't want to go through this again next year? We'll give you a couple of years, and at worst, we ship you out after the end of the year, whatever we have to do. What's kind of the contract value you're looking for in a guy like Chafin or Smith in terms of years? And I don't need a dollar amount, but just in terms of years where you'd be comfortable as a big time Blue Jays fan saying, I've committed to this guy for X and I am happy with that.
I would say 3 years. Now I say 3 years is because of Bo Bichette. Is now I think the Jays were kind of stuck at where arbitration was going with Bo Bichette, and the dollar figure. We won't get into that, but the dollar figure of how much they can actually spend after Bichette was signed was really kind of stopping them. Now I think you got 3 years. Yes, you got Vladdy again going to arbitration next season unless an extension is done. But now you got 3 years where you don't have to worry about 1 year prime players. He's going to be there. So I say 3 years for Andrew Chafin is kind of where it is because he'll be 35, turning 36 that year. And like I said, the long run, he's going to be that guy with Tim Mesa for the next 3 years if the Jays can get him on that.
And the best part about baseball is here, friends, you want the honest opinion of anyone who's watched baseball is if he's not good one year, a lot of pitchers, especially bullpen players, are disposable at the end of the year, midway through the year. Kind of like what the Twins did with Tyler Duffy this year. If you're a big Minnesota Twins fan here on Clem Hawks tuning into some Blue Jays talk, like there's a ton of guys that you can just across the MLB. And Andrew Chafin, as waiting till this last moment to sign, is another one of those guys that even if the Blue Jays commit long term, can just kind of dispose of quietly. And I don't think too many people are going to be too upset unless it's a more or less Brad Hand situation, which is always interesting to see how that is. And if you're wondering, oh, why has Clem Hawks been doing three guys regularly, and now they're only talking about two for the Blue Jays? I don't think anyone wanted us to talk seriously about Brad Hand being an option in that Blue Jays bullpen for a second tour of duty.
No, and for sure, like we don't want to see Brad Hand again. I know Zach Burton's name's been thrown out there a lot. He's just coming off an injury-prone season. I think in 3 games he pitched 2/3 innings and had a 13 ERA. He's not the same Zach Britton as he was beforehand. And like I said, between Will Smith and Andrew Chafin, Chafin's a bit younger. He's 32 years old. Will Smith, I believe, is 35, 36. Yes, he has the experience, but we're looking for the next 3 years. Who is going to be that guy with Tim Mesa? Yes, once Ryu's back, you can move Kikuchi to the bullpen. But between now and till that happens, you only have Tim Mesa. And Kikuchi's a high risk right now. We've seen it last season. Yes, in the bullpen, it got a bit better, but he's still a risk. And I'd rather go for a guy who's proven in the bullpen that he can do what Andrew Chafin or Will Smith does.
All right, friends, there you go. We've laid it all on the table for you this afternoon, this evening, whenever you're tuning in from. Thank you so much for being along for the ride. He's Gilles TV. I'm Yak. This has been Clem Hawks. Of course, if you're new, hey, hit that subscribe button on the way out. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks so much. I'm up on out of here.